Welcome to the How I Built My Business podcast, where we discuss the life-changing highs and comical lows of starting your own business. This is a support group for self-diagnosed entrepreneurs who'd rather captain a potentially sinking ship than work the oars on someone else's boat. Whether you're an established entrepreneur or an aspiring cubicle escape artist, you've come to the right place. This podcast is brought to you by Carlsen O'Connell Commercial Real Estate. We help business owners purchase or lease commercial real estate. Our specialty is helping commercial tenants become commercial real estate owners. Need inspiration? Take your monthly rent and multiply it by the number of months left in your career. If you don't like that number, give us a call. But enough about us. Let's get to the show. I am so excited today to have Eli Weiner, the founder and owner of the BoaVida Group, with us today. He has a fascinating story from what I can tell, and I'm really excited to dig more into how he built his business and what he's doing now. Eli, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invite. And look forward to chatting with you. And I could talk about real estate. I could talk about mobile home parks and RV parks probably for longer than anyone wants to listen.
That's exactly how I feel. My wife gets very tired of listening to me talk about office space and warehouse. We'll drive by the dingiest warehouse ever, and I'm like, oh, look at that. That's fascinating. And half an hour goes by, and she's like, I don't want to talk about that warehouse anymore. So I certainly get you there. We try to keep it pretty light and self-deprecating on this podcast. So the first question we always ask is, tell us about the worst job you've ever had without naming the employer so we don't get sued.
So I don't know that I had a worse job. I'm going to say, so that you don't get sued, I got to say the name. But when I was going to UC Davis, I got a job at Denny's. And the first month I was the busboy. The second month, I was basically at school running out of money, and I wasn't really that good at school. So I was trying to figure things out. I lived right across from the Denny's in South Davis. And I was a horrible interviewer, by the way. I'm just always really like, I don't know what to say. And the lady that interviewed me, she's like, are you okay? Is there something off with you? And she must have felt bad for me, but she ended up hiring me. First month I was a busboy. Second month I was a server. Third month I was a night manager. I was like working all through the night, and then I'd hop on my bike. I think I had like Spanish class at like 8 a.m. in the morning, and I hadn't slept all night. So I'd fall asleep, but the teacher kind of knew what I was doing. So she was pretty nice about it, but I'd fall asleep in class. Once I was kind of the night manager, I figured I need to get the heck out of here because I don't like how this is going. This was just supposed to put a few bucks in my pocket.
Sure, it was turning into a career right before your eyes. You were almost lifetime night manager.
I did like the uniform. I had a really cool like tie and a white shirt.
That is really funny. So I read on your website, I thought this was fascinating, that you co-founded Woodcrest Homes at the age of 22. That seems extremely young to be, co-founding a company. Tell us about between night manager and co-founding a company. How did that happen?
The trick to entrepreneurship and starting a business young is just be really unhireable. If no one will hire you, then you have no plan B or plan C. You just have to, or you don't have a plan A or B, and then you just have to do D. So, and I think that's what happened. My father was my father got into the mobile home business because first he was in the timber business, and then from the timber business he would subdivide the land, and then he would sell the land, and then he would buy 10 manufactured homes at a time, bring on the land to help sell the land. And then he bought a dealership up in Placerville, and then another one in the Jackson area, and that helped sell his land. While he was learning that business, I was also learning that business, and I always worked. And while I was going to UC Davis, I was working at Denny's. I told my dad that, and he kind of laughed at me and then said, I said, "Thanks a lot, Pop. I appreciate that." And then, but there was a park in South Davis that had some vacant spaces. They wanted a mobile home dealer to come in and fill some spaces, so we went and checked it out. And they had this old home there, and the home it wasn't that old. It was a year old. They hadn't sold it. It was like pink on the outside, pink on the inside, horrible colors, single wide. And other than that, it was in decent shape. And my dad was not a good teacher at all. Or he probably was, but he just wasn't the type to teach. I used to sit with everyone in his office. It was like the chain smoking real estate guy, like the old, real estate guy that was chain smoking. And over here you had the real estate guy that like brought his lunch, saved every commission, probably was a millionaire, but you never know it. Drove my type of guy actually drove a Toyota Corolla. But these were the guys I was learning from. They taught me how to sell. So we placed an ad. So anyway, my dad said, I'm not putting a home in this park because they have this home and they can't sell this one home. So I placed an ad in the paper. And I said, how much down, how much a month? And I sold the home in like 10 days. So the managers there loved me. They were so thrilled by that. So we worked out a deal, brought in a bunch of homes. I went around my apartment complex, and you're not supposed to do this. I put all the why rent when you can buy right on everyone's doors. My phone was just vibrating like crazy and, bouncing off the table. And I sold like 10 homes over the summer, quit my big career path with Denny's. So anyway, I learned the dealership side there because during that time, my dad was doing the land home stuff, learning the business, and he had no idea, like he didn't have the resources to help me. So I went out, went to the dealership, the car dealership, bought a truck, got the tools, helping the crew set up the homes. And I was learning everything start to finish, the financing side and so on. So I learned the business. So then I ended up recruiting an old friend I grew up with. We actually tried to make a deal with my dad. It didn't work out. So we went on our own. Through that relationship we had with the manager at that park, we also got an opportunity in the Bay Area where we go into the Bay Area, and we started our own dealership. And what we did back then, because I was just a 21, 22-year-old kid, and back then the dealership didn't know if they wanted to sell directly to me. I needed to have some name recognition or something. So the two big, the big factories were, I think it was Fleetwood and Silvercrest.
Oh, I see
or something.
Where it's going.
Yeah, so we're like, Crestwood. Oh wait, Crestwood doesn't make any sense. How about Woodcrest? And it was funny because people would be like, oh, I've heard of you guys. I'm like, you have? Because, but anyway, we had a great product. We were buying homes from Champion Homes, bring them into the parks in the Bay Area. So we basically would flip old home. We'd buy an old home from a Bay Area park, yank it out, bring a brand new home in, and we'd sell that home, make a good profit. And then we had an opportunity to start buying mobile home parks, and we moved from that and transitioned into buying parks.
I love that. I love going through the name, and you're obviously a co-founder at age 22, which is awesome. I have friends they've been at law firms for 12 years in order to become a partner. And I was telling them, I was like, oh, just start your own firm. You can call yourself partner on day one, and you're good to go. I think there's something to being able to start something yourself, call yourself whatever you want, and come up with a clever name like Woodcrest that feels like they know it when it isn't necessarily.
There's also, a bit of a desperation where you just have to, it has to work and you have to do it. And, dropped out of college, couldn't make a deal with my dad, had bought the truck, had a truck payment, had to figure out how to succeed. And I had to be there was no real choice of it not working. So, and actually I had a cousin who would loan me some money on the dealership. Well, so we needed money to run that dealership. So I had two different people loan me $20,000 each. And one was a lady who my mom actually owed money to. And when I was working at Denny's, when I got the job at Denny's, one of the reasons I did that was to help pay off that debt. So every month I was sending her a little bit of money. And then when I started selling those homes in Davis, as soon as I cut a few of those closed, I just paid her off. So she was thrilled. And then she found out about what I was doing, and she's all, oh, okay. And I think I was paying her 18% or 20% interest. And then I had a cousin who's an attorney up in the Placerville area. And I think he took a credit card loan for me for $20,000 that he was getting a good rate on. And I was paying him 20%, and he still invests today, but those are two, so you got to find people like that to take these chances on you when, in the very beginning. And that's a big difference from today where people are asking, can I invest?
I mean, it depends how good your idea is, right? I mean, I'm sure there's still people out there starting businesses all the time that are, begging to borrow money from people. So I'm sure looking back on your business, it was a very smart thing to invest in, but at the time they didn't know. So when you started out, even recently, is there a particular mistake that you made that you would not make again, kind of looking back to help other entrepreneurs avoid?
One of the first things I thought about was part of our culture here in our company is we give people equity, and we give people equity opportunities. And I've structured that differently now than I have in the past, because I've been very generous with that. But because I'm the way I am, and I like to see how many other team members we can help create wealth for. And I'm not as careful with that as I should be. It's backfired in the sense that, when it didn't work out, I didn't structure it right, so in a sense, I'm like working for them now. But every one of those little mistakes you can modify and change, because the idea itself is a phenomenal idea and has helped us grow tremendously way past our competition. So the problem with, any mistake I can think about is it taught me something that really I was able to modify and make it in a way that just ends up working out really, really well for everybody.
Well, that's exactly it. Mistakes are just learning opportunities. And if you handle things the way you did, you can obviously make it truly an opportunity, not just a learning experience. So that definitely makes sense. Was there anything, it sounds like when you were starting out, like you said, it was really your only option. You kind of had to do it. Was there anything that was particularly hard about making that leap, or in the early days that you found difficult? Or was it just kind of a no looking back, I got to do this?
I think I always felt a lot of pressure to be successful, but not in any sort of traditional way. My parents never seemed to care, what type of grades I got in school, not in any like real capacity. Because I was always involved with kind of looking after people, I always kind of had to, make sure that I was put in a situation, because if you kind of think about things as assets and liabilities, and maybe that's not the nicest way to think about it, but it's a very real way to think about it. So if you put yourself in a situation, are you placing yourself in a place where you're an asset to your family, your friends, people around you, your church, or are you a liability? If you have that type of mentality, and that's something that you think about, then it's tough not to always worry that we got to do this, we got to do this. And I think I had that before I met my wife, had a child at a very young age, 24 years old. And then, because once you do that, you're like, okay, well, now it's even more real. Every challenge, right? It's going to push you to that next level.
If you don't mind me asking, you said that you had always been in a position where you're caring for people. Can you elaborate on that?
So my parents divorced when I was pretty young. And then I always had young siblings. And so on my mother's side, I was always, I'll give you an example. When I was in high school, in the last 2 years of high school, I moved to Morro Bay. Every other Friday and Sunday, I had to meet one of my brother's fathers. I drove halfway to Sacramento on Friday, picked him up, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. And then Sunday, I had to go drop him off. So every other Sunday, I'm doing this.
It's a big commitment.
So I think when you're in high school and you're doing that, you're making sure that your kid brother's going to be safe and that type of stuff, and instead of off doing other teenage, getting in trouble and other fun teenage stuff, you're already kind of starting off with that mentality.
It's a higher level of responsibility than a lot of kids have in high school. Yeah, absolutely get that. That's fascinating. Thanks for sharing that. When you're looking at your business, is there anything, I know I've heard you talk about your culture, and obviously, we haven't really talked overall, but can you talk a little bit about the total size of your organization, how many parks you run? Probably should have asked you that earlier on in the interview, but I think it's really important for people to understand, the scale that you've built to. That's so impressive.
So we own and operate 138 mobile home parks. We're all across the country. It's just under 16,000 spaces. We'll probably, we have several deals under contract. In the next 30 days, we'll surpass 16,000 spaces under management. It's a good sized portfolio. I'm pretty sure we're top 10 in the industry as far as amount of spaces owned and operated. We have a high concentration in California and a lot of the Western states, but we've been really expanding out quite a bit in Texas, in Kansas, Missouri, Iowa last year, Indiana. We've been focused on big focus on Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, and then all the mountain states. So we're growing quite a bit. Total employees probably north of 260. All but 26 of the properties we operate ourselves under our management companies, and then we've got 26 properties that we partner with third-party management companies that do a fantastic job for us, and we work very closely with them. Sometimes they have resources in areas that we don't have. That works out really good.
That is an incredible amount of doors to be managing and be in charge of. That's absolutely fascinating. If you are roughly top 10 now, are you aspiring to be top 5, to be number 1, or are you guys kind of at a place where you're happy with your size?
I don't think you're ever gonna really get it. It's tough to get ahead of the equity lifestyles and the Sun communities and the REITs and that they own 800 space communities, 1,000 space communities. That's just going to be the only thing that really matters is can we find a good deal can we keep finding good deals to continue to reinvest our dollars where we can go there and create value, do a good job for the tenants, and increase the quality of life for the tenants, increase the value of their homes by, not being too aggressive on the rents, be able to, fix the infrastructure, do trees, do roads, do the entrance, get the right people in place, make sure that the water lines and sewer lines are working. If we can go in and solve those problems and create value and increase the value by doing that. And it's tougher and tougher every year to find those deals. And what's happening now is there's a ton of competition too in this market, and they're paying prices that we won't pay. I mean, there's a deal that there's several deals that we've seen where we've made offers recently, and the prices come in and people have outbid us by $1 million and a half. We don't know how they can make it work at that numbers, but it's a frothy market out there right now. We're fine. I'm happy. Like last year, we bought 31 properties. The year before that, 36. If we buy, 5 or 10, I'm fine with that as long as they're good deals. Our target this year is, we have a fund, a BoaVida 2021 fund. The target is to try to buy about 120 million in deals. I don't know if that's going to be 10 deals or 20 deals. And then, so we'll probably raise approximately 40 million to go out and buy 120 million in parks.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. So essentially, you're going to buy as many deals as you can find good deals, essentially. You're not going to just buy something to buy something. That's something I tell my clients all the time is, just because someone's willing to pay that price does not mean you should pay that price. In these hot markets, someone who's buying over there, they might not have done their due diligence. And, just because they're willing to pay it does not mean that's the price you should pay. I certainly get that.
Yeah, the majority of the consolidation in this industry has happened in the last 10 years, I think. So I think it's just going to get tougher and tougher for people to find good deals in the mobile home and RV park space. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what happens. At the same time, there's going to be some deals that'll come back on the market because a lot of my competition now, they won't make the numbers. They'll have to sell to get the returns for their investors. Where we have a model, we never want to sell. We think it's a fantastic asset class. It's one of the most predictable investments that you can have as far as the cash flow of it, because supply and demand is so much on your side. And if you have something with great tax protection, incredible predictability in the cash flow, and then actually has upside, that's a great investment. So why would you ever sell it, especially if you can increase the value, buy it for 10 million, increase the value to 15 million, get a new loan at 10 million within 5 years, get all your money out, and then just collect quarterly distributions. And that's our model. So we never really want to sell anything. I'm kind of allergic to selling, so I get a horrible rash.
Well, that's good. That's how you know you're buying something you truly believe in. There's a lot of developers, there's a lot of brokers that sell a lot of commercial real estate, but don't own commercial real estate. And the fact that you guys are looking at these projects, buying them with no intention of ever selling is just, obviously you're talking the talk and walking the walk, so that's really, really cool. Have you ever thought about going internationally to get to a point where you don't find the deals that you need in the United States?
I do. I think there are some mobile home and RV parks in Australia. I don't know much about Europe, but a lot of the big players have properties in Canada. I have looked at deals in Canada. What I don't understand is how you get the money from, I don't think I'll ever go there, but you never know. I mean, there might be some point in which we do, but I know that the big players are already buying, the biggest, nicest stuff in Canada now. So
I've kind of heard you talk about how a lot of what you get pride out of is improving these communities and making them nicer places to live. I was just curious in, more developing countries where, they could probably really use something like that. Does it pencil at all in a market like that, or is it just not advanced enough?
Well, my wife's from Brazil, and our company, the BoaVida Group, and BoaVida Communities and BoaVida RV Parks, the word BoaVida comes from the good life. It means the good life in Portuguese. Good life to me doesn't mean it's not material things or anything like that. It makes me think of like when I go to Brazil, and I don't speak very much Portuguese at all. And her family, doesn't have a lot of money or anything like that. But we'd be barbecuing with her family and her friends, and the kids are playing and everyone's having a good time. And because I don't speak a lot of Portuguese, they would always be barbecuing and drinking a little bit. They'd say, the BoaVida, BoaVida. Like, this is the good life. And you think about when these communities were built in the 70s and 80s and how people were treated their neighbors and had relationships with their neighbors. And for me, I'm even bad at this at my house in Natomas, making those, increasing the expanding on those relationships with my neighbors and, doing community type events and stuff like that. But when you think about the mobile home communities and when they were originally built, I really picture that. And I really picture, because they all have, a lot of them have community centers. They got the swimming pool, the clubhouse, maybe picnic areas. I mean, we actually have some parks. Well, the RV park behind me in Borrego Springs, beautiful park. It's a mobile home and an RV park. We've got 6 pickleball courts, 2 event centers. We've got an amphitheater. So these are places that I'm very proud of, those type of places, because there's so many gatherings. And I was talking to another lady who we're working with her to buy her RV park, where they have a Memorial Day breakfast every year. And I said, you know what? I want to know everything you've been doing, because we want to continue those traditions. Because that is what BoaVida is about. That's the good life. So we got to do that with our mobile home parks. We got to do that with our RV parks. But when you're talking about doing this in other countries, I've always wondered, because a manufactured home, especially a brand new one, is built with all the same stuff any site-built home is built with. And a lot of people, they use a stick-built. I hate the term stick-built because, well, what's a stick? 2x4? Well, okay, whether it's built on site or built in a factory, it's the same stick. But so I call it site-built or factory-built. So it does drive me nuts that they don't have factory-built housing in these other countries. I can understand, if you're in the desert in Mexico, it might be tough to get the lumber or something, because it's just different building products. And you see that a lot in Brazil. But if you have the trees, if you have the lumber, it would be such a cool thing to be able to provide that type of housing and build those type of communities. So it's not something it'd be neat to do that in the future.
Yeah, I know that I've read that you do a lot of things philanthropically. And so I was just wondering if you would ever potentially merge those two ideas of, providing BoaVida, but, in another country to people that can really use it.
Yeah, I mean, talk about housing issues. We're both from the greater Sacramento area, and this is horrible. The homeless problem here in Sacramento is, probably one of the worst in the country. That would be a neat challenge to try to tackle that. The problem is with the politics of it. I have spoken with people who have done a good job doing tiny homes for homeless people, getting funding. And, the government basically, really doesn't want to solve the problem. If you really want to know the truth, that's,
I was curious what your experience has been on that, because someone who is operating at your level, I guarantee the government has probably talked to you about, is there a potential solution here? Or maybe they haven't asked you. I don't know.
I've been involved in a little bit of like tiny home talk and very minimal charity work on that. I've met with people who are trying to do it on a larger scale, but still kind of a small scale. And it just sounds painful. It just, until there's a change in leadership at the government level, I just feel like they don't actually want to solve the problem right now.
It's always a lot of paperwork. I'll tell you that the state of California office lease is, 3 times the thickness of a standard office lease. So there's always just a lot that goes to that. Obviously, you've spoken about a couple things that you're proud of. Is there anything in particular you want to highlight about BoaVida that you want the audience to know?
Nothing in particular. Every year we do, since 2019, we've done a fund. We've created it so that other new people could get involved and could invest in mobile home and RV parks. So it's called the BoaVida 2021 Fund. It's open. We are accepting funds. The goal is to, just find what we basically look at about 1,000 deals a year and see if we can find 20 deals to purchase that fit our criteria. I'm always one of the biggest investors in the fund, so I put my money in there, invest side by side with everyone else. We don't charge acquisition fees, disposition fees, asset management fees, so it's a very investor-friendly product. And it's kind of, I think, an exciting opportunity if people want to invest in real estate passively and able to kind of use our team's expertise to manage the properties.
Interesting. A question I'm sure you get frequently is the minimum contribution. What does that look like, if you don't mind me asking?
The minimum investment is $100,000.
So it's definitely a lot cheaper than buying your own full project, and it allows you to kind of piggyback off of your company's expertise and track record.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do when you're kind of at scale. So we closed a loan today with 6 properties all tied together. And because we did that, we were able to get some cleaner looking properties and some rougher looking properties and some that we wouldn't normally get non-recourse financing for. And we put them all together and we were able to get this beautiful, it's basically interest only for 10 years. It locked it today at 3.77%. And those were properties that Fannie or Freddie wouldn't necessarily lend on. When you have those relationships and kind of our history, then it's kind of amazing what you can get done.
Awesome. Great points. That makes sense. We are going to take just a quick break here. Then we're going to have some personal questions for Eli, just some fun random questions. But first, let's hear from our high-paying and very important sponsor.
Attention business owners. Do you need help renting office space or buying a commercial building? Carlsen O'Connell Commercial Real Estate is your free expert consultant. They do all the legwork and research so you can focus on running your business. For additional tips and strategies, also check out Commercial Real Estate Explained on YouTube. It's a channel dedicated to helping business owners make informed decisions about their commercial real estate. Again, that's Commercial Real Estate Explained with a link in the show notes.
All right, we are back with Eli Weiner. He is the founder and owner of the BoaVida Group. He's told us all about how he started, where his business is at now. We took some tangents about talking about development in other countries. Now we're going to talk about just Eli the man, learn a little more about him with some just random questions. So first question is, who is your favorite sports team? You only get one.
I gotta say, now it's the Buccaneers.
The Bucks, really? Okay. Are you a Brady guy, or why now the Buccaneers?
I'm very impressed with Brady. So my wife is a Patriots fan, And even though she's Brazilian and you got the Giselle thing, it has nothing to do with, it originally had nothing to do with Brady. It was because the first game she ever watched when she moved here from Brazil was like the Raiders against the Patriots in the snow years ago. And it was like some awesome game. It was Randy Moss or something. Anyway, it was an impressive game. It was the first game she saw, and then she fell in love with the Patriots. She knows everything about the Patriots. But I just thought last year was so cool because now there was like 3 teams I actually care about, because I'm not really a guy that I grew up playing tennis, but I just didn't really care about watching sports ever. But she got me into watching football a couple of years ago, and actually caring about the Patriots. But now I'm curious about how the Patriots are going to do. I'm curious because Belichick's so cool, and then Brady's starting, and then talking, Gronkowski into coming back. I mean, the whole thing is so like, who would have even thought that they could do that? And it's such anytime anyone's betting against you, right? So you gotta like it when people are betting against the guy and then he just does it. But also, and you're like, oh, only one, and I give you 3. And then, we bought some properties in Kansas City. We've got some in Kansas City, Missouri, right there. That team's just so much fun to watch too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think he's the future. And I'm actually with you. My family's from Michigan originally, and we're University of Michigan fans. And so Brady played for Michigan. And so, I used to root for him when he was playing for the Pats, and everybody hated it. Now that he's at the Buccaneers, people don't hate it quite as much for some reason. I think just making that shift to Tampa Bay, everyone's like, oh, like, but my family's big University of Michigan fans. That's why we're rooting for Brady. And people they're not as mad. They're usually a little mad, but not as mad.
Right.
But, that's awesome. Yeah. Kansas City. I have not been there, but I hear it's a really, really fun town as far as like, going to sports games, barbecue. My sister lives in Missouri, so I'm sure we'll get out there eventually. Very cool. Okay. How about a good book you've read or listened to recently?
Well, the only thing I'm listening to right now is the Book of Matthew.
Got it.
With the kids, I'm watching The Chosen.
Okay.
And as I'm watching that, I thought I'd go back through the Gospels and kind of see if I could do that at the same time. And I thought that was pretty, that'd be pretty fun.
Absolutely. It's definitely one of those books that you can read and read again and has a little different meaning, and you pick up on different things. So I certainly get you there. I'm not as studious as my father, but he reads every single day, even if it's just a page. So that's great. That makes sense. Very cool. How about what is the last song you've listened to? Feel free to lie.
Actually, Cats in the Cradle.
Oh, classic. Oh my gosh. Did you tear up at all or what?
No, it's a fun song. I mean, it definitely has meaning for sure. And it's a reminder, not because my father was absolute workaholic, but I've got this really cool, fun 1971 Chevelle, and I drive it every day because I have a Toyota Corolla that was my other car, and my son just turned 17. He's driving now, so I got to leave that for him. So it doesn't matter what the temperature is. I'm cruising in the Chevelle convertible, and I got a great system in it. And so I drive it everywhere, and I've got my oldies on, I got, all my different tracks I listen to, and I had it on the oldies. And although I listened to that this morning, and then probably right after that was it Van Morrison, Brown Eyed Girl or something?
Oh yeah. So, gotta love Van Morrison. And Cats in the Cradle that's Harry Chapin, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so my dad actually has a story of he got to open up for Harry Chapin in Michigan. He booked all the concerts for the university, and so he I don't know if he just slotted himself as the opener or how that worked, but he actually got to meet him, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
That's awesome. Great. Well, now that we're kind of getting to the end here, is there anything in particular you want to get across? I know you talked about your fund that people can join up to. Is there a website you want to promote, or, is there anything specific you're looking for, or, anything else that our audience can help with?
No, I did. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to kind of share a little bit about me and our company. And if people want to learn more, they can go to the BoaVidaGroup.com, and if they're interested in, they can. There's a lot of information on there, and if they're interested in investing, they can. Basically, there's a page for that. they can fill that out and we'll get right back to them.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day with all those properties and all those doors. I'm sure you've got a lot going on. So thank you again so much. It was fascinating learning from you. And I look forward to kind of keeping my eye out for you at, Sacramento events, and hopefully we'll cross paths again.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you very much.
All righty.
Thank you again for tuning in to How I Built My Business with Dave Carlsen. If it wasn't for you and our guests, I'd just be talking to myself. Until next time, stay happy and support local businesses.
Attention business owners. Do you need help renting office space or buying a commercial building? Carlsen O'Connell Commercial Real Estate is your free expert consultant. They do all the legwork and research so you can focus on running your business. For additional tips and strategies, also check out Commercial Real Estate Explained on YouTube. It's a channel dedicated to helping business owners make informed decisions about their commercial real estate. Again, that's Commercial Real Estate Explained, with a link in the show notes.